Nikole Hannah-Jones and Ta-Nehisi Coates. Nikole Hannah-Jones is a correspondent for the New York Times Magazine, where she created the 1619 Project, an examination of racism and slavery in this country and its centrality to the spine of American history. For that, she was awarded the 2020 Pulitzer Prize for commentary. Ta-Nehisi Coates, journalist and author. He won the George Polk Award for his Atlantic magazine piece titled The Case for Reparations, a National Book Award for Between the World and Me. Both of these writers have recipients of the MacArthur Genius Award. Both of them have been key to our understanding of American history in this moment. And this week, they just announced something exciting. They're going to be starting a new Center for Journalism and Democracy at Howard University, the Mecca, one of our nation's oldest historically black colleges. And they join me now. It's great to have you both. Congratulations on the announcement. Maybe I'll start with you, Nikole, on just the question of why now. We have fights about American history all the time, and we have curriculum fights all the time. I remember growing up in New York City, there was a big freak out because there's a New York City public school book called Heather Has Two Mommies. That was going to be the end of the world. So this is a perpetual argument we have in a democratic society. But what is going on now? Why is it that the sort of ferocity of this backlash and this fight on this terrain right now in your mind?
Thanks for having us on. It feels like a weird reunion for us all to be on together, even though we're not in the same room. And it looks like you got a little bit better light, Ta-Nehisi, so I'm glad you got an upgrade.
Only a little better. I'm trying.
So, I've been thinking a lot about this as you both have. And I think you have to kind of draw a direct line from what happened last year with these global protests and so many Americans starting to really make these connections that, what happened to George Floyd is not just about an individual incident. This is part of a legacy and a pattern. And we started seeing corporations, we started seeing polling numbers of white Americans who were saying, we actually do think maybe systemic racism is a thing. And so this backlash is in direct response to that. Because what the narrative of American exceptionalism tells us, that the inequality we see today, that the fact that in anything that you can measure, Black and Indigenous people are at the bottom of that, that's just a matter of our personal choices, because this is a country where everyone has the same rights, and if you work hard, you can overcome. When people started to question that kind of foundational mythology, that's when we saw really geared up this backlash in the sense that white Americans were losing some personal stake that they had. And then if we examine this history, we are now saying that white people are not good as a people, that they are losing something. And the narrative serves the politics. That's what is so important, right? How do you justify voter suppression laws? How do you justify trying to overturn an election? You have to have a narrative first that justifies that. And this is part of that narrative that is serving a larger political ambition.
Ta-Nehisi, you once wrote this line, and I think about it all the time, because Nikole's talking about what I think is the central story here, right? So if you look at American life, right, there's all these disparities, particularly between Black folks and white folks. And it's true of Indigenous folks, Latino folks, Asian Americans, others in different ways, but Black and white particularly. You can look at whatever incarceration rate, poverty, right? And there's different stories you can tell about that. And one of them is white supremacy, which is like, well, they ended up on the bottom because they're worse. And the other is structural racism. And basically, that's the fight right now. And you once wrote a line that said there's nothing wrong with Black people that ending white supremacy wouldn't fix, which I think about all the time, because to me, that's the fight we're having, because people don't want to, they're rebelling against that idea.
I think that's exactly right. And just to piggyback on what Nikole said, it is history that justifies governance and justifies government. It is not coincidental that you're having this fight right now about what story we're going to tell about this country. And the very same people are trying to restrict voting at the polls. That's not coincidental. Redemption went hand in hand with the lost cause. When we want to do something, we generally reach back to our collective memory to justify. When we wanted to go into Iraq, the phrase Jeffersonian democracy was rooted in this idea that America was the font of democracy, had always ensured these rights, and could therefore go into another nation, stomp on a group of people, and install something that we had been doing since 1776. In fact, had we had a more serious reckoning with our actual history, maybe we would have questioned the premise of that in the first place. But the bottom line of what I'm trying to get across is that history is not something that's just happening over there. It's directly connected to the politics. And that's why, what Nicole is doing and what she has done is so dangerous. I mean, here you have, as far as I'm concerned, one of our most decorated journalists, period, bar none, not Black journalists, period. And folks couldn't even, fix themselves to take a vote until they were forced to come out in the light of day and say, no, we don't want this.
And that's, I mean, I agree about the backlash. And I've said this on the show, Nicole, I'm curious what you think, which is, in some ways, like, part of the debate is how central is race to the American story? How central is racism to the American story? That's a little bit of the debate we're having. And to the degree that one coalition in American life decides backlash to that is the most important thing, it does seem like it's proving the point a little bit. Like, the freakout itself seems to concede the centrality in the way that you are making the case for its centrality.
Yes. I mean, one, the fact that you can understand that if you are a political party that is struggling to maintain a majority, that the key to getting power is to stoke racism, tells you that race has long been and continues to be a central organizing factor in American politics and American life. But also really look at these laws and these arguments about critical race theory. I was just reading an article yesterday about a school board meeting in Tennessee where a white mother complained that her child was being taught critical race theory because they were being taught the book that Ruby Bridges wrote about her experience desegregating the school in New Orleans. And the argument was that it was too black and white, that it was talking about white people doing something to black people, and that seemed unfair, and it didn't have a happy ending. So what these laws are saying is not that we shouldn't teach the truth about history, that we need to teach the truth about history, but that the truth about history is too harmful to white children. Those are two different arguments, right? So that is, to me, just admitting how endemic race is to the American story if we can't teach our true history because it will make children think our country is racist.
Chris, I want to
pick up on that point. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, just go back to this. I just want us to, really punctuate this. That this is not merely, school boards debating about, what curriculum they're going to teach or what they're not going to teach. This is the state. The president of the United States stood up and denounced the 1619 Project and then passed an executive order. These are state laws being passed, and this is in the shadow of us only a couple years ago having this debate about how campus culture was out of control and cancel culture and this and that. This is the state militating. It's against a particular telling of history. So, yes, it does make the point that, the history is relevant. The white supremacy actually is relevant.
It's true. It is crazy. The president of the United States, got up to denounce Nicole Hannah-Jones at one point. I sort of wiped that from my memory along with a lot of things.